Welcome to The Glitter Effect, a podcast dedicated to shining a light on the movers, shakers, change makers, and all-round living legends of our communities who are making a real difference. Today on The Glitter Effect, I have the absolute privilege of sitting down with the incredible Julie Fisher, who is an inclusion advocate, international speaker, author, radio host, disability advocate, community leader, and change maker who is transforming the way we think about belonging. Julie is dedicated to helping organisations and communities move beyond awareness and into meaningful action when it comes to disability inclusion. Her work is deeply personal. As a mum to Darcy, who has Down syndrome, Julie's advocacy is grounded in lived experience in love, challenge and courage, and in unwavering belief that every person deserves to feel seen, valued and included. She's also the author of 5 books that beautifully blend heart and honesty while challenging systems and mindsets. Julie doesn't just speak about inclusion. She invites us to feel it. She asks workplaces, schools and communities not simply to tick boxes, but to open hearts. And I have been looking forward to hearing more about Julie's story for such a long time. And I'm so thrilled to welcome Julie Fisher to The Glitter Effect today. Welcome, Julie.
Oh, thank you so much, Kate. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. We've been trying for quite a while to sit down and have a chat together, and I'm really pleased we've been able to lock today in.
That's great. And just that intro, which is only a little bite-sized chunk of what you do, there's little wonder it's taken so long because you're such an incredibly busy, talented lady. Take us way, way back to the start, Julie. Tell us about you and about your journey to where you are today and how you got there.
Okay, so I'll go back to, I guess, when we became pregnant with Darcy. So we were a family of 4, 2 older boys. I've got, I'm blessed with 3 beautiful boys. And then what happened was a couple of years before I got pregnant, I met this lovely lady called Tina at the school, and she has a little girl. Well, she's not little anymore, but she had a little girl at the time with Down syndrome. And Tina and I just clicked. We clicked straight away. Our older kids were in class together, and I just used to ask her lots of questions about her daughter, Amy. And one of the questions was, what was it like when you got the postnatal diagnosis? Like, how did it feel? What emotions did you go through? Because I was interested to know how it felt. And she told me that it was very devastating. It was very emotional. They love her to bits, but it was really difficult. And they said every time they sort of thought they were getting on top of it, people would come in to visit and they'd be crying. And I thought, oh, wow, I wouldn't want somebody coming in crying because I've just had a baby. So fast forward, I get pregnant, and a little bit of a question comes up in one of the scans, and we decided to have an amniocentesis because we wanted to know so that we could be prepared. We could tell our boys, tell our family and friends, so that everybody could celebrate him when he was born, and that's exactly what happened. So by the time Darcy was born, everyone was very excited. Yeah. And, it was beautiful. And I was also doing a lot with the older boys with their sports. Yep. So when Darcy was born, he was born into a world full of people. So for him, he accepts everybody for exactly who they are. But what we started to see when we were going out with him was what we perceived as judgment. And I say perceived because I've learnt over the years that not all of it is judgment. Yeah. And that's sort of where it all really began with, just trying to educate people and raise awareness that even though Darcy has Down syndrome, he's a person just like everybody. Yes, he needs supports. Yes, he needs a little bit of guidance. He learns a bit slower than the rest of us. But at the end of the day, now, 20 years later, he's a boy that loves to hang out with his friends, play basketball, go to the movies, the theatre. And I just think it's really, really important for people to understand and learn about everyone. You don't have to be friends with everybody, but I think it's nice if you have an awareness and an understanding. And I think that also brings about the big message of being kind to one another. Yeah.
It's a simple message, but we do need to be reminded of it, don't we, Julie? I think we all get lost, and we're all guilty of that in our busy lives. But just hearing stories like yours and that lived experience, it's just that gentle nudge to bring it back to the forefront of everyone's thought processes again. So Was there, so what have you always been in sort of this sort of advocacy space when the kids were growing up, or how did you land in this space?
Um, no, but I guess when I think back now, when my older two were at school and things, I guess we all do a bit of advocating on
Yeah,
behalf of ourselves or our children at times, but we just
100%.
don't realise that that's what it is. I didn't realise that's what it was until Darcy came into our lives, and
Hmm.
and it sort of stepped up a notch. And me being in this position that I'm in now, where I get to meet wonderful people and share our story and raise awareness and support others in the disability community, I guess began with the first book, The Unexpected Journey. And it's quite funny, like you'll probably laugh when I tell you, but that project was a bucket list item. So I was going to write that book and just be happy with it sitting on a shelf for the
Yep,
rest of my
yep.
life. And then I started to see that it was sort of making waves and people were really interested in learning more. And then slowly but surely, I'm where I am now. And, when you say Julie's written 5 books, it sort of thinks, whoa, did I really write 5 books? And,
Yeah,
yes, I did. But, writing for me has always been a real passion and a love,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I get lost in it. So that's a little bit of self-care for me,
yeah.
because I really get lost in what I'm doing and I relax and I chill. So I think that's why I've been able to do all of the books. And I think our books and our stories, they just create awareness, understanding, they support others. They make that mum sitting at home feeling alone not feel so alone anymore. And it's
Mm.
important to get it out there. So I love what I do now. I love that I'm creating change and making waves and hopefully creating a better world for everyone, as in particular my son Darcy and others who live with disability, because I think they deserve it.
Oh, I think you absolutely are. You're doing more than the average person, that's for sure. But we need people like you. We need people who are brave enough and courageous enough to really just lead and to lead the way. And we need leaders like you. So there's lots of people who'll follow, but not everyone has the strength and the capacity to do what you're doing. So hats off to you. You're absolutely incredible. So was there a particular moment where I know you said you wrote your book first? So that was purely just you wanted to put it down on paper, presumably. And
Yeah.
then, so what how did that then lend itself to it becoming was there a moment where you just got, I could do more than this, I can go beyond this? What was there a sort of a aha moment for you to take it further, or did it just grow organically, or a bit of
Yeah,
both?
yeah, a bit of both, I think. I think when I wrote the first book, it was when I really understood that level of advocating and the level of the need to make people aware. So Darcy did dual schooling through primary school,
Yep.
and I had to advocate very heavily for him, even though they were very accepting of him being there. I had to advocate very, very heavily and got into some interesting conversations along the way.
Yep.
So when I wrote the book, I sort of thought, wow, that's what I'm doing. Like I didn't even really realize what I was doing till I wrote it down. And when I published the first book, I went along to a carer mingle and about 6 of my friends were there and they'd all bought the book. And the lady that I did the books with, she said, always take extra copies with you wherever you go because you just don't know what conversations it will create. Anyway, the CEO of Carers Vic was there and she said, what's this book that you're giving everybody? Can I please have a look? And I showed it to her and she said, look, we're doing a campaign called Truly Incredible Care. We'd love you to be part of it if you would like to. And I said,
Fantastic.
okay. I said, yeah, why not? And that was that really light bulb moment where I thought, wow, I can do a lot more with this. I can get my message out there. And the lovely lady, my mentor, Natasha, who I did my books with, she always talks about things like that our books are bigger than our stories and
Yeah.
we can make a real impact. And even if we help one person, it's worth it. And I do know
Yeah.
that because I've had an experience of that as well. So that was where I really thought, okay, now I'm liking this, and then we
Yeah.
did the campaign.
Yeah.
And the campaign was incredible. And both Darcy and I really, really loved it. And then COVID hit, of course. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we got locked up at home. But what I was able to do was I was able to attend a lot of events online. Like all of a sudden I could go to these events that normally I wouldn't be able to go to.
Mm.
And so my name and my message got put out there further and wider. And I just really enjoyed the people I was meeting and the impact I was making.
Fantastic. And you've got that magnetic personality, and I can, Yeah, I'm sure you walk into a room and you light it up, and then you add that extra touch when you tell your lived experience story. And I think there's that element of trust too, isn't there? When there's lived experience, people automatically their guard goes down because you know what you're talking about, as opposed to someone who's studied something or, I think there is that element of trust. And by writing those books, so let's just go into the book. So you've done the Unexpected Journey was the first one. Then which one did you write next?
The next one was The Magic of Inclusion.
And then
From the Hearts of Mums.
Yep.
And then I published a little children's book called Big School. I'd actually written that. But that was actually sitting on my computer for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then when I'd done the other 3 books, I thought, wouldn't mind actually publishing that children's book. And I do have a want to do a series about his adventures at that mainstream primary school.
Yeah.
And then last year I published The Adolescent Journey, which was actually the follow-on from The Unexpected Journey.
Okay. So tell us a little snippet about what each one, so if listeners don't know, what is each one about? Obviously, you told us about Big School, but give more information as well when you get to
I will.
Yeah.
So The Unexpected Journey is about our journey with Darcy from that prenatal diagnosis up until the age of 13.
Yeah.
And I talk about the emotions that we went through, the interesting doctor's visits that we had, the bullying that I felt from the doctors at the time when we received the diagnosis, and just his journey then through growing up and primary school and his love of performing and things like that. I talk about Darcy aspirated liquids when he was a baby. He actually still does it, but it's not dangerous anymore. So I talk about that journey of him ending up with a PEG, which is a tube in the stomach.
Yep.
And that's pretty much what that first one is about. And I've had so much beautiful feedback from families about that book. And I've actually had a lady stop me and thank me for saving her daughter's life.
Oh, wow.
She received a gift pack from Celebrate T21 that had my book in there. They were booked for a termination and they got this gift pack, and she said, I wasn't going to read your book. I kept walking past it thinking, no. And then she read it, and after she read it, she cancelled the termination, and she had a little baby on her chest the day that she saw me. And so that was huge.
That's massive. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I went home and said to my husband, if nobody ever reads that book again, that's enough for me. That was just beautiful.
That's good.
And I held it together. I was very proud of myself.
I don't know how you did. I would have been a mess, a red hot mess.
I know. It was beautiful. And so then the next book, The Magic of Inclusion, I felt the need to write that one. I just wanted people to know how it felt for us when we go out in the community and people are staring and pointing and making snide comments, and they do it. Yeah. And I just wanted to sort of talk about that. And then also my realisation that not everybody is being judgmental. So as Darcy grew, I decided that I had to stop reacting to that sort of stuff because he was feeling it, and I'd never want him to not want to go out in the community.
Yeah.
So I started smiling at people and even saying hello, and I found that probably 9 out of 10 people were smiling and saying hello back. So that was a really nice realisation for me.
That's nice.
So I just sort of say to people, if you do find yourself looking at somebody, just give them a smile, because sometimes you don't know how that look is making someone feel, especially if they think you're looking at their child. That's a whole other level of mama protection there.
Yeah.
So I wrote that, and I got contributions from some ladies that I've met online, and just of experiences that they've had out in the community with their children as well, which is it's quite good. Some of the stuff you read and you go, I can't believe people actually say that to other people.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah. And then From the Hearts of Mums, that's an anthology of 13 mums stories who care for children with Down syndrome. And again, it's sort of like The Unexpected Journey and The Magic of Inclusion combined with their stories. So it's their story and then what their wishes are for their children in the future. And it's beautiful because you can see a real common thread with all the kids with Down syndrome throughout the book. All the stories are quite different, but they're similar.
Yeah.
And it's really lovely. I've had lots of good feedback on that one, and I actually won a gold award for that book last year.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And then Big School came about. So Big School is about his first day of what we call Big School, mainstream primary school, and just how we sort of dealt with it, like how I let the families and the children know that they could ask any questions they wanted to about Darcy so that he could be supported.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not as intense as a big book that you would write.
Yeah.
It's aimed at kids and things. So it's quite a cute little book, and I've had good feedback on that one as well.
Lovely.
And then the adolescent journey, that was always going to happen sort of from the unexpected journey. I pick up from when Darcy was 13, which was when he lost his peg. So we were able to have his peg removed.
Yep.
And then just through the adolescent years and how we've felt and how we've dealt with certain things. But I also talk about the things we need to be prepared for as our children grow, because when you have a child with disability, you're sort of going through all the normal teenage hormones and things, but you've also got lots of more paperwork you have to do. And, you have to know when to do it, what sort of things you need to put in place and stuff like that. So I talk about a lot of that sort of thing as well as Darcy's story. So, and what he loves to do at this age now. So
amazing. And what does Darcy think about having his story shared? Has he vocalized anything, or is he just okay? He just goes along with it. What does he think about it all?
He likes the books. He loves the books. He loves it when people want him to sign them as well.
Yeah, nice.
And he can't read, but he does know what we're doing.
Yep.
He comes to some events with me, and it's really lovely to watch him when I'm speaking on stage, because he does understand what I'm talking about and the message I'm putting out there. And I can tell that because he nods and he looks around the room at the appropriate moment. So he does understand. And when I am at a speaking event with him, he'll jump up on the stage when I'm getting to the end and he'll say, "Mum, is it my turn?" And he gets the microphone and just pretty much introduces himself, which is lovely, because then they can see that, he likes to do that too. So he does know. He doesn't vocalise a lot, but when I show him a new book or when we look at the books, his chest puffs out and he's quite proud. So,
that's lovely. And what's Darcy up to now? What does he do? He's obviously he's no longer, how old is he now, did you say? Is he 20?
20.
Yeah.
He's 20.
A young man, a fine young man.
It's crazy how quick the time goes. But so he's in his second year out of school. And I sort of talk about that in the adolescent journey too, because there's a real grieving process when they leave school, especially he was in specialist education for 15 years.
Yeah.
And leaving that, I think I'm still grieving a little bit myself, but he's really adapted into his new life. So he does a day a week at a performing arts group called BAM Arts. He does 2 days a week at a beautiful working farm near us called Sage's Cottage.
Lovely.
And then he does a gym day and he also still does some therapies. So,
great. Gosh, he's busy.
Full week.
Yeah.
He's busy. And he always says to me every night, "What's next, Mum? What's next?"
Lots of energy to burn. I love that. That's great. Yeah. That's great. So you've taken these books and now you go into organizations and schools and community groups. And so what is your focus? What do you talk about, and what do you and how are you received?
Yeah, it sort of depends. Each one's a little different, but I usually start by just sharing our journey and who Darcy is, and that he is a person. And my big focus is to give everyone a chance. People might need a little bit of guidance and support along the way, but if you do open your hearts and minds and give people a chance and give them an opportunity, you'll be very, very surprised at what they can achieve. And they learn, they do learn. They need support, but they do learn how to do these things eventually. And I often, if I'm in an organisation and we're talking about employment, I'll quite often say, well, any new person coming into a role needs support and needs guidance and teaching, don't they?
Yep, 100%.
And people like Darcy are no different. They may have to have somebody shadowing them for a little bit longer, but, they get very invested in what they do. Like Darcy's learning woodwork at Sage's Cottage where he goes. Yep. And he, a couple of weeks ago, he came home with a little planter box for me.
Oh, and, lovely.
He did that by himself with a little support.
Yeah,
he was so proud giving me that. And, then that opens up that next door for him to try the next step and to try more. So I think it's really, really important. I do have a quote and I say, give people a chance and watch them shine. Because when you do give people a chance, you do see them shine. And even if you're just out in the community shopping and you give that person a smile, you will see them shine, because all of a sudden they feel accepted and feel like they belong.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. We all want to feel like we belong in our communities. Even if we don't talk to lots of people in the community, you want to feel safe when you're out there, and you want to feel safe at school,
Yeah.
safe at work, safe on public transport, all of that sort of stuff. And that's really what I talk about, and I think I'm received quite well. I keep getting asked to do these things. So I think that lived experience, Kate, what you mentioned before, really holds a lot of credibility because, you're talking really from the heart. You're talking from experience and things like that. And there's people that live with disability that can advocate for themselves, and they do these speaking events and things as well, which is wonderful. Darcy can't do that, which is why I do it for him. And, I have friends that thank me because they don't feel like they can be a voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm a voice for them.
You're a voice for them, which is great. And as I said at the start, we always need those people to lead the way, and you are absolutely spreading your glitter trail everywhere you go with that torch you're holding really high. So you talk about inclusion when you go to all these places. What's one common misconception that you see in any of these workplaces or schools or any community groups that you talk to? Is there a common theme, or is there a few things?
I think it's just lack of understanding. And when people don't understand, they just don't know. So they react in a certain way. So when they don't know that Darcy can do things. And, again, even if he needs support and prompting to do it, he can do it. So I think sometimes there's a bit of fear there that they're not sure whether they could let somebody in or whether they could even just say hello to someone like Darcy. They just don't know. So, again, through sharing our stories, that hopefully gives them that awareness that they can say no and they can give someone a chance. And if something doesn't work, it's okay. It doesn't matter. At least you've given them a chance. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. It's like all of us, sometimes we'll enter a new job or a new school or something and it just doesn't work. So what do we do?
Yeah.
We leave and we go next. So it's the same with Darcy. It's the same with the programs that he does. If it doesn't work, then we go somewhere else and we try again.
Yeah.
And it's fine. But I think a lot of the things is a fear because of a lack of understanding.
Yeah. And I think that's where, and I always say where young kids, before they have their ideas, if only adults can channel that, I think young kids have got it right because they ask the questions when they don't understand something, if it doesn't look like how they know something to look like, and it's such an innocent way, but there's something we're programmed as adults to not ask those questions for fear of upsetting people. Whereas in fact, if we actually kind of went back to that stage, we probably wouldn't be as down this little rabbit warren that we're trying to get out of, I suppose. I don't know, but
no, it's true. It's true. And like quite often, kids will be looking and I'll say, hi, do you want to ask a question? Or they'll just ask a question depending on their age.
Yeah.
And the parents will say, oh, don't do that. And I go, no, please let them ask the question because
they're curious.
I say, don't worry, I'm not gonna give them an in-depth, complicated answer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer it where they can understand.
Yeah.
And like Kate, Darcy did Auskick for a number of years. So I think it was the third year that he did Auskick. So he sort of was older than the kids that he was doing Auskick with.
Yeah.
And it was the third group and we're about halfway through the season and this little boy came up to me and he goes, and his mum looked like really worried. She thought, oh, my God, what's he going to say to her? Because obviously he'd been saying things to her.
Yeah.
He said, why can't Darcy kick the football and catch the football like we do? And I said, well, he has Down syndrome. And I said, all that means is that he learns a little slower than you. So he just needs a little bit of extra help and a little bit of encouragement. I said, like when your friend catches the ball that you kick him, you go, yes. He needs a bit of that to help him along. And from that moment on, all of those kids in that group were like specifically kicking the ball to Darcy and getting him ready. Put your hands out, catch it. Yes, Darcy, you did it. Whereas before they were fearful because they thought, oh, he doesn't know how to do it properly.
Yeah.
So that little boy coming up and having the courage to ask me that completely changed the whole situation. Darcy was always happy to go, but from that moment on you could see that he felt much more included and accepted. It was beautiful.
And
so
it's a simple thing. Yeah.
Let your kids ask questions or even just give that smile, say hello, and read a book. listen to a
Mm.
podcast, and learn. It's wonderful.
And also, don't be scared as adults to ask questions too, right?
100%.
It doesn't always have to be the kids that lead the way, because adults need to know too, particularly if you haven't had any, haven't encountered any people with disabilities in a certain way. It's so, if you don't know, you don't know. And we
That's right. You
forget
don't know
that.
what you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just go back to the adults asking questions. When Darcy did the mainstream primary school, his kinder teacher said to me, but she actually asked me to introduce it from kinder. She said, why don't you do a letter introducing Darcy and you, and talk a little bit about, who he is and that he has Down syndrome, not too complex, she
Yeah.
said, and then open the door for them. Tell them that they can ask any question they want. There's no limits.
Yeah.
Because that's how they'll get to know us and him. And I did that letter from 3-year-old kinder all the way to grade 3.
Oh, wow.
And the families used to always say to me, thank you so much for that letter, because it has opened the door and made us feel like we can come and talk to you and ask you questions. So,
That's good.
please ask the questions.
Oh, that's good. So, what hope do you hold for the generation of children that are growing up with a disability today that perhaps you didn't have when Darcy was younger or growing up? Or what changes have you seen as well? I suppose that's 2 questions there.
Yeah, that's okay. The hope I have for, this next generation and the kids growing up is that they do just open their hearts and minds and really accept people for who they are. They don't have to be friends with them. They just to accept people for who they are. I quite often say, Darcy accepts everyone for exactly who they are. If he doesn't like you, though, he'll leave you alone. He's not going to point or stare or call your names. He's just going to leave you alone. But for those people that he does like, it doesn't matter if you come in with a big boil on the top of your head or whatever. If he likes you, he accepts you for exactly who you are. And when we're in the community, he's very accepting of everybody around him. Like, he'll smile and say hello and things like that. And what I think I'm seeing now, because we see so much awareness these days on social media, in books, on the telly, I think the generation today are growing up more with people with disability.
Yes.
So, they're seeing them as their peers. They're not seeing them lower, or I don't know how to say that, but they're not seeing them different. Is what I'm trying to say. I think they're knowing that we're all different anyway, and we are, aren't we? We're not all the same.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm seeing, and the kids that Darcy went to primary school with, quite a few of them are actually working in disability or volunteering at disability groups, and it's really wonderful to see that, because they're not scared. They're sort of going in and they're really enjoying the work that they're doing. And when you're supporting somebody like Darcy, when you see him achieve a goal that you've been working with him for a while, the joy and the pride in that is just so wonderful. And seeing him feel so happy that he's achieved something it's just gold. I mean, it's wonderful to see anybody achieve a goal that they're working towards, but when you've got somebody that needs that extra bit of support, extra bit of time, it's wonderful. And I'm seeing these young guys that he went to school with doing this, and they're just really, really loving it. It's wonderful.
Oh, that's so good. Look, I think we, as we said earlier, I think, again, with the world of information at our fingertips, quite literally, as you say, we are learning more and we are educating better. There's still a long way to go in certain areas than there are in others, but we're on the right track, and
I think so.
It's nice to see it's becoming a more inclusive, and people are more aware of that. And organisations, it's now part of their organisation as opposed to an extra have to do. Are you seeing that too? It's more that it's not something that is more sort of like on a we need to include that now. Everyone needs to be included. It's now part of what they are.
They're wanting to do it now, and they're understanding what they need to do to be more inclusive. So it's not just saying, oh, yes, we'll tick, we're inclusive, we'll let them in the door. They're actually doing more. So they're creating that space for the people. So I remember a story, a friend of mine was asked to help with the sensory area for an event, because she'd been to the event and the sensory area that they had was just an empty room.
Yep.
And so she had to work with them so they understood what that meant. So you're seeing more things like that. I know that our gorgeous friend Louise from Friend in Me.
Yes,
She's got that amazing inclusive space van that she takes to different events. And so we're seeing more of that sort of things, which is creating the understanding.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing more of that. People are, okay, we want to be inclusive. What do we need to do? How do we do that if they don't know? So, it's wonderful.
That's so good. It must be nice to you. You must go to bed with a smile on your face some nights. So some nights it will be harder, but I'm hoping you'll go to bed with more smiles than not at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when Darcy comes home with a big smile on his face and he's had a great time out. So.
Oh, and with a planter pot too.
Oh, it was so cute. I was like,
gorgeous.
Is that for me?
Oh, that's good. Now, what's one piece of advice you'd give to any parents or carers of children with disabilities who might be listening, who might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed or actually unsure where to start if they don't feel like they're as included as they should be, or just starting their journey or at different points of their journey? What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Yeah, I always say for them also, like, ask questions, find some support. If you can't find it, usually there's support organisations specific to the disability that their child may have. So reach out to them first if they don't know where else to go, and see if there's any local support groups that you can go to. It really does make a huge difference to be around like-minded people. The one thing I didn't share about Tina was that she was running a support coffee group at the time. So I was able to join that group while I was pregnant with Darcy.
Oh, okay.
And it was wonderful. So my big tip is always reach out. Don't be scared. Don't feel like you're failing because you're not. You're not doing it alone. You shouldn't have to do it alone. So support's a massive, massive thing. And, if they don't know where to look, they can contact you or contact me, and I can steer them in the right direction, and I can be that support for them.
Amazing. And what's next for you? I can't believe there's much that you've got left to do, to be honest. But what's on the horizon for you now over the next few months?
I'm just enjoying watching Darcy grow, I think, and, continuing just to get that message out there and raise awareness. I do an event once a year, so I'm starting to sort of get that into my head and get ready for that. I have my own radio show. So every week I'm talking to amazing families and people that work in the disability sector. So I'm learning all the time as well, which is great. So I just keep doing that, and we'll see what comes next. A lot of what I do has happened organically as well. So, one door closes, another one opens. But as long as, everybody feels safe in the world that they're living in, that's what I want.
And what's the event? Tell us about the event.
It's a local disability expo in my area down here in Melbourne. So I have last year we had 65 providers. We had some people with disabilities showing their micro businesses. We had some performers, and it's a really wonderful day, and I love bringing the local community to the providers that can support them. So that's another good place to go to, is little local expos and things like that. They're not too big, and they're a great place to go to for support and to find out what you can and can't do, or what you need, or whatever it might be.
Amazing. Now, we're all the light-hearted bit now. We always talk about the glitter effect, and as I said at the beginning, I'm a firm believer that people have a pot of glitter, and that once they find their purpose, they sprinkle their glitter with heart. And you do that in the bucket loads, it's quite clear. But in order to get to this point, there's always people, glitter royalty, who have imparted their wisdom or encouraged you throughout your life, or given you the energy to do what you're doing today. Who would you consider your glitter royalty or influencers and mentors that have got you to where you are today?
Oh, look, Kate, to be honest, I think the biggest one would be Darcy.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I've got some amazing people around me that teach me and support me and guide me, but he's definitely the one. He's the one that has opened my eyes, opened my heart,
Yep.
taught me so many things, taught me acceptance and inclusion and what it really means. So, yeah, definitely he's at the top of the list.
No, and he sounds amazing. I hope to meet him one day. We keep
I
missing
hope so
each other
too.
at events, but I think hopefully one day it's going to happen.
It will.
And lastly, the easiest question ever: if anyone wants to find out more about you and your incredible things that you're doing, where do they go?
Okay, so I do have a Facebook page called The Unexpected Journey.
Yep.
And I have a website, which is www.juliefisher.com.au. So if anybody wants to reach out, please do so.
Oh, I hope so. Julie Fisher, thank you so much for coming on The Glitter Effect today. You've been an absolute gem, and I've loved hearing. I could talk for hours with you. I'm sure there's more. Thank you so much for your honesty, your vulnerability, and for your relentless commitment to a world where inclusion isn't actually just an initiative, it's actually a way of life that we should all be living. You're a true member of Glitter Royalty because you don't just advocate, you illuminate, and you hold that torch really high. You've taken your lived experience and turned it into leadership. You've taken personal challenge and transformed it into collective change. And you challenge systems, but you don't just challenge them, you do it with heart, which I absolutely love. Through your books and through every room you walk into, you're helping organizations, schools, and communities move from good intentions to meaningful belonging. And you remind us that inclusion isn't about fixing people, it's about fixing environments. It's about courage, it's about listening, and above all, it's about love. Julie, you are proof that one voice, grounded in truth and driven by love, can ripple far beyond what we ever imagine. And Darcy is one extraordinary lucky boy to have you as his mum. Keep doing what you're doing because you are incredible and you are true Glitter Royalty. I really thank you so much for coming on today. I wish you all the very best with everything. Take care.
Oh, thank you, Kate. It's been wonderful. I've loved chatting with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me, Kate Ganneil, on The Glitter Effect. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep showing up, making an impact, and sprinkling that glitter wherever you go. Bye for now.